Without plastics today, your life and everyone's life would be vastly different without the materials that we supply. So we take a lot of pleasure in that, especially in our medical plastics division, because we are literally saving lives.
Just a quick reminder for you to like, subscribe, and rate this podcast so we can get your feedback and know how to make it better.
Hey, it's Ari. Welcome to another episode of the Made in America podcast. Today, I'm talking with Bing Carbone, president of Modern Plastics. Bing, thanks so much for coming on today.
Ari, thank you. This is really a pleasure to be here today. Thank you so much.
Dude, absolutely my pleasure. I know we've had a few false starts trying to get this going, so I'm glad we finally lined it up.
Absolutely.
Well, listen, it's the Made in America podcast, Bing. So we start off with the same two questions. What do you make and why do you make it?
Okay. So we are a 77-year-old company based in Shelton, Connecticut. And we are a plastics distributor. And we custom fabricate plastics and we machine plastics. And why we make it, basically, listen, it's quite simple. Without plastics today, your life and everyone's life would be vastly different without the materials that we supply. So we take a lot of pleasure in that, especially in our medical plastics division, because we are literally saving lives.
That's pretty cool. And I know you brought a bunch of stuff. So I think maybe before we get into some of the background, because I'd love to hear about the history of the company. I know it's been through some changes. I know it's growing. I know you got some big views on state of Connecticut and manufacturing. We've got a lot to talk about.
You bet.
But you brought some stuff, so let's not put it to waste.
Okay.
What do we got here? And let's talk about it.
All right. So again, just kind of diving into some of the applications that we're using plastics for. So this metal part over here, that is actually a hinge that's used on a helicopter door. And of course, when we talk about aircraft, strength, weight, and cost are all big factors.
Sure.
So with plastics, and you know that composite materials are being used in aircraft a lot right now, we're actually able to take a composite carbon fiber filled material and it's 160% stronger than the metal part.
Is that right?
That's right. Number two, cost-wise, it's less than 70% the cost of the metal part. And number three, in terms of weight, it's 80% lighter than the metal part. So this is a very cool way. This part actually starts as a 3D printed part, and then it's compression molded, and that's where the strength of the fibers during the compression molding process really increases the strength of that product.
Wow, high tech,
oh, yeah.
Cheaper and stronger, not bad.
Absolutely. So, in our industry, plastics, we look to replace basically metal components, where applicable. So, a big part of our business is medical grade plastics. I think it's about almost 80% of our business right now. And these are materials that are either used temporarily in the body or for instrumentation, say in the surgery room, or also on a permanent implant basis when we talk about spinal surgeries or knee and hip and shoulder replacements. A big part of our business is what they call trials. Okay, so trials are something that would be in the surgical room when the doctor has the knee or the shoulder open. There is a permanent implant that goes into the knee, the shoulder, usually combined with some titanium, etc. And what the doctor has is a variety of these colors of a knee trial. So this is a temporary implant. The doctor puts it in. They're sized differently, so they're sizing trials. So if your size is different, he'll put this in first, doesn't work, throws it out, it's already come in contact with blood, tissue, etc. He'll try another size, and then that will be the eventual size for the permanent implant. So very big business for us, very cool business, high-tech stuff. And then we also supply the permanent implant that goes in the body as well. Now, the interesting thing when we talk about these plastics and the high performance of these plastics, if you had a knee replacement, let's say 10 years ago, yep, in 15 years, you would need another one.
Right.
But with today's materials, and specifically the plastics, That's it. You're done for life. You'll never have to do it again. And patients are up and walking virtually the same day of the surgery.
So you're saying knee replacements now are being done with some type of modern plastic application as opposed to metals?
It's typically a combination of some titanium, but the plastics play the key role because obviously a knee and a shoulder move back and forth, and you have to have something that's going to wear very well, and also something that's FDA approved and something that the body's not going to reject. And these materials have been used for a very, very long time. And the cool thing about them is that blood and tissue and bone love these materials, so they're good inside the body.
Gotcha.
Another interesting product, again, on the medical side of things, is this 3D filament. Okay, now technology is really changing. So this is something called VestiKeep. It's a PEEK material. It's a permanent implantable material. And I'll tell you what's happening. So let's say you've got a patient with some sort of catastrophic head injury. Part of the skull might be missing.
Sure.
So during the surgery, the doctor will actually take a scan of the injury. He'll download it into some software. He'll produce a 3D part that's actually going to fit the size of the injury. He'll screw it down. And you're basically saving someone's life. This then becomes the permanent part of their skull. And again, these materials love the insides of the body.
So the body won't reject it. You get the bone regrowth right around it or scar tissue, and then it just becomes another part of your head.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's incredible stuff.
It is. It really is. This little PEEK part here also, you may not think it does much, but this maps the sea floor. And this helps us find new reserves of natural gas and oil. Very critical component. They couldn't do it without this particular part.
And so from a modern plastics perspective, you guys are supplying these, you're building them, like kind of where's your role in the whole?
That's a good question. It's kind of all over the place. In some cases, look, our customers keep asking us and they're saying, look, it's great that you distribute the materials, but we'd like a finished part from you. So we do end up supplying finished parts in some cases, semi-finished parts, near net shapes, or in many cases they have specific machining companies, subcontractors of their own that they want the raw material sent to. So I think we cover all the bases depending on what the customer wants from us.
So covering kind of all the bases. And I mean, was the company doing plastics in 1945?
Well, that's a great question.
Because I mean, the company, right, your grandfather, I think, started it.
Yeah.
You know, we're at what, 80 years ago almost, right?
77 years ago, correct. And that's another great question, and you're right. I mean, 1945, the company was not Modern Plastics. It was Modern Glass. Okay. So his thing was one day turn around of automobile windshields and putting plate glass up on buildings and that kind of thing. So there wasn't too much going on with plastics per se. You may have heard of a product called Bakelite and phenolics, and those were around for a while. But really, it wasn't until the wars began and plexiglass, acrylic started coming out, and they were used for the canopies and the aircraft and things like that. And my grandfather had the vision. He said, you know, this glass business is a good business. We're profitable, but it's also kind of a dangerous business. And he saw the future in plastics. So we became Modern Plastics and Glass during the 50s, 60s, and 70s. My father entered the business in the 1960s. And then the business just kind of took off from there, and with a heavy emphasis on plastics. And as new plastics came out and were developed, things like Teflon, for example, and Delrin, which is an acetal, these things started to change how manufacturing occurred. Because the characteristics of plastics are really quite incredible. Whether we're talking food and beverage, whether we're talking semiconductor, whether we're talking pharmaceutical or medical, defense and aerospace. As I said from the beginning, life as we know it would not be the same without our plastics. You couldn't go up in an elevator. It's not something as simple as that without our plastics.
Yeah, listen, if you look around any table, anything you're doing, your car, your elevator, everything, plastics are everywhere. But do you feel like plastics sort of have a little bit of a bad rap?
Yeah, I think they do, and I think it's not necessarily in the types of plastics that we sell, because these are high performance engineering materials and medical grade plastics. But having said that, we still cut to size all these materials. We fabricate them, we machine them, and there is waste of these plastics. However, we recycle 99% of our plastics, which is a great thing. We're very conscious of that fact. We actually, we even have tall trees in our warehouse facility, and we're very green, and we're very conscious of that. You go in our dumpster, you're not going to find any plastic per se. However, food and packaging, the plastic bags, those kinds of things, they can stay in landfills for quite some time. They end up in the ocean. It doesn't walk into the ocean, the plastics. People end up putting it there somehow. So that's been problematic, and that's given plastics kind of a bad name, because people kind of
associate
that with,
with
all plastics.
People are probably aren't throwing knee replacements into the ocean.
I would not suspect so. But it is a real problem, and a lot of these things are going away. You see the plastic bags going away. Styrofoam, for example, can last over 100 years in a landfill, and those styrofoam food containers and trays, they're going away, if not gone already. So the industry is changing, and even the food packaging, the clear plastic containers where you might get served a hamburger to go on, those are now being made out of biodegradable materials, so that in a few months, if it goes to a landfill, it goes safely back into the environment.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. So you started off as glass, then it went to plastics and glass, and then just got rid of the glass. Well,
I came out of college from Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut in 1984. So I'm disclosing a little age stuff there. And, I saw the business in probably a different light than perhaps my grandfather or my father were seeing it. Look, wildly successful, very profitable company, doing well. But I think one of the key characteristics that I have is the kind of ability, maybe, I guess, to kind of look down the road. Where are we going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Where's the business heading? What kind of customers do we have? What kind of products do we have? And I think one of the first things I did is I said, this glass business, I know it's got a part of the business that's we're kind of fond of, has a lot of memories. It's how the company started. But I didn't like it. I didn't like the customers we were selling. I didn't like the margins. I just didn't think it was a good business for us to be in. And it's no disrespect to the people that are in the glass business. It's just that I felt plastics was the way for us to go. And so I started to change the business. Now, it was a family business. I had a father in the business. I had a brother in the business. I had 3 sisters in the business. I had a mother on the side. Yeah. So, family businesses are great. That's the building blocks of this country, our family businesses. But they can also get a little hairy at times, Everybody has their opinion and way of doing things, and questions and confusion and arguments and all that kind of stuff. So what ended up happening is, like I said, I came in like a bit of a bull, and I just was forcing through a lot of change. We became the first company in the state of Connecticut, not in the state of Connecticut, rather, in the plastics distribution business to become ISO certified. Mm-hmm. And the part that the state of Connecticut played through Constep, and this was back in, 1997 maybe, was that it was very, very costly to get ISO certified. And the state of Connecticut paid for it. That was a big, big thing for us to get ISO certified, because eventually that allowed us to get into the kinds of industries that require that type of certification, whether it's aerospace and defense or the medical.
What made you think, first of all, what made you think to do it, and how did you even know about Constep to kind of get involved, and how did they help you?
Yeah, my vice president of sales figured that one out with Constep, so I give him the credit on that for sure. But the business, I had a friend who was in the machining business, high-end stuff, doing fluidics and manifolds and things like that. And we went to lunch one day. It was a big account. We weren't selling them at the time. And I said to my outside salesperson, I said, I'll be happy with $50,000 this year. And I think they were buying maybe $2 million worth of plastics at that time.
Small drop in the bucket.
Yeah, especially back then. So we started selling them. I remember we got the first order, it was $16. I was so proud of that. But the business really took off with this company. We're in Bristol, Connecticut. And as time went along, I finally called up the owner's son, who was pretty much in charge and running the business on a day-to-day basis. And I said, look, I think we should get together for lunch. It's been a long time. And, he goes, yeah, I've heard about you, and you guys are doing great. So we actually met at J. Timothy's, and I think it's in Plainville. Mm-hmm. And that I expected to be a beer, a hamburger, and I'm on my way. I got there at 11:30. I didn't get done with that lunch until probably 5:30 at night. And what he basically told me, he said, look, your business, the plastics distribution business, is a crap business. And that's what he said to me. And he outlined why. And a lot of it had to do with the quality aspects of the business. He's selling into very high-end customers. He was getting improper material certifications. He was getting basically illegal substitutions on materials. A whole host of problems. I got in the car. I drove back to Bridgeport, where the company was based originally. I don't even remember the ride back from Plainville to Bridgeport because my head was spinning. And that's when it really struck me that said, you know what, we got a lot of work to do. We've got to change this business. And we did. And we did.
The idea being you walk away from that meeting saying to yourself, if we can differentiate ourselves, if we can be somebody that you can rely on, if when you order from us, you can rely on time, you can rely on getting quality, we can actually provide a better end product and do better for our customers and do better for ourselves.
All right, that is so spot on, because what that person that I met with said, look, if you want to be able to sell the kinds of customers that we sell, if you want our $2 million worth of business, and if you want to grow your business, not now, but for the future, he said, these are the things you need to do. And I am still friends with him, and I credit him for giving me that insight and giving me that hard talk. And then going back and doing it.
You took action on that.
I did.
And so you felt Concept was really helpful in moving that.
They absolutely were. And we still deal with them from time to time to this day. And I'll never forget what the state of Connecticut did for us to help us. And it's just remarkable. And it's really helped our business.
So the business has some evolutions, right? So glass and plastics, you kind of drove into plastics, then you're going to more high quality, going ISO certified. And then didn't the business make another pivot like in 2006? I think you guys sold the business?
Yeah. So you're right. And as the business began to change and evolve, one of the things that changed is our customer base. And we're kind of fortunate in that we can kind of pick and choose the kinds of companies that we feel fit best for us and we feel fit best for them. And so we are now a global company. I think close to 25% of our business is international. I don't know how many people are shipping into China on a weekly basis, but we are. And we don't miss a heartbeat doing it. So structurally, yeah, the business change, and also the materials. Look, plexiglass, we still sell a couple of sheets here and there, but it's more of a commodity material. I'd rather sell things that are really life-changing products. These are high-end products. They're obviously more expensive materials. There's a little bit more opportunity for profit on these materials. And it also gives us the ability to sell some of the biggest countries in the entire globe. And that's really been our niche and our fit.
How did the acquisition play into your strategy?
Okay, so, as we were building the company from the prior visit, lunch I had in Plainville, your family business, you start to get a lot of knocks on the doors. And are you for sale? Are you for sale? And we talked to a number of people just for the heck of it. I never really thought about selling. But we did talk to a lot of people, and either it wasn't the right deal for the shareholders, it wasn't the right deal for the employees, it just wasn't, whatever, it just wasn't the right deal. Until we had a gentleman come in from my now parent company. He was the CEO at the time, 6'4", jag in the Marine, straightforward. And he gave us this story about our ownership or our intended ownership. And he said, look, we go around and we buy really good companies. And then he said this, he goes, we leave them alone. And he used the word autonomy a lot. And I'm like, boy, all the stories I've heard about acquisitions is they come in, they tell you what to do, they screw up the business. You end up losing customers, you end up losing business, and really there is no autonomy. You're being told on a daily basis what to do. When the people who are on the ground floor, like me and others, probably know best, right? So that was hard to kind of overcome. I had some conversations with him privately and just said, look, this is
real.
Yeah, exactly. And he said, no, this is how the business is run. He mentioned that there's also a pretty extraordinary profit share program for the employees. That was interesting. He said, you run a good, clean business. He said, it'd be a pretty good profit share for the company there. So that was all good stuff. And we ended up eventually selling to that company. So our owners are pretty private. And it's a private company at this point. It's a very large company. It's an international company. And they're basically buying companies in the distribution business.
All in plastics or?
Plastics, HVAC, electrical, that kind of thing.
So what did it do? So obviously it gave you guys an exit strategy, gave you a platform, but did it do anything to boost the business? Was there anything, is there like cross-sell opportunities? Like how did it make the business, did it do anything unique to make the business better?
Oh God, yeah.
Okay, cool.
First, so that was 2006. It's now 2022. And what I will tell you, honestly, not one time has anybody called me on the phone or sent me an email or walked into my office and said, you can't do that. You cannot do that. You get rid of this person. You can't sell those products. You can't go in that market. Not one time. So they leave. It's a decentralized type of business, and they leave the decision-making process up to the local manager to make those decisions. So, let's just talk about the supply chain issues that we've all been dealing with over the last few years.
Supply chain issues? Have there been supply chain
a
issues?
little bit here and there, So, like inventory, no one tells me what to do in terms of how much I can put on the floor. And we knew that, there were going to be some big problems with lead times, et cetera. In fact, we were being told last November from our suppliers that, look, if you don't start placing orders now, you're not going to see material until 2023. So we ramped up our inventory dramatically. I mean, dramatically. And it's not a problem. In our owners' world, they encourage investment and reinvestment in the business. We just put in some paperwork today for some brand new equipment, a lot of money. I fill out basically a one-page form, submit it, they process it, machine shows up 8, 10, 12 weeks later. That's it. They encourage that. Now, I would imagine at some point, if I was really screwing up the business, someone would eventually knock on the door. But
hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but you know what? We've had some challenges. We've had some rough years. I ended up walking away from a $3 million customer. And let me tell you something about our ownership. So I have to go to these forecast meetings every year.
Yeah.
The owners are there. They actually come to these meetings. 3 or 4 owners come to this meeting. Our CEO comes to the meeting. All the executives, the CFO, the regional manager I work with. I walk into a room, and for 40 minutes, I have to talk about my business and give a forecast, et cetera. And these people are well trained. They know what they're talking about. You're not going to go in and kid them around at all. But I walked into the meeting one year, a couple of years back, and I said, we walked away from a $3 million customer. I expected feedback. I expected something to be said. They said nothing. And what that did for me is it told me, Bing, they have confidence in you. If you walked away from a $3 million piece of business, then you must have a very valid reason why. They didn't ask any questions. And what happened the following year, because this company was just draining us, a lot of resources, margins going down, et cetera, we not only made up the $3 million, but we doubled that. And we did it with basically better customers and ones that we can better service and that understood the message that we have. Everybody talks about value-added services and that sort of thing. And, you know, value-added services are good, but we really consider ourselves as supply chain managers. We get deep into the heart of each of our customers, and we give recommended buying strategies, and we talk about cost reduction. We talk about alternative materials that for better performance, better costing, et cetera. So we really get involved with our customers on a much deeper level than just a transaction. Here's plastic, here's your purchase order, we ship it, that kind of thing.
So what made you look at that piece of business and say, it's time to get out of this business? Like what I mean, because look, what you've just said is, it's great, right? And I think a lot of people want to do it, but it's easy to talk about, but man, it's hard to fire that customer when it comes down to it. What gave you the idea to do it and the strength to do it?
Yeah. You're right. Because when you have customers, it just comes out of the mindset, I just want to keep acquiring customer after customer after customer. And I'll give you another example. In Bridgeport, before we moved to Shelton, Connecticut, we had a 5,000 square foot retail store. It was great. It was lovely. It's just customers loved it. People were coming in as almost an attraction from New York and New Jersey to see the place. We did some unique stuff in there. But in the end, though it was profitable, could we make additional profits by doing other things? Was it a necessary part of the business? And look, I feel bad. We have people that come to our Shelton facility, and some poor guy that needs a little piece of plexiglass for his garage window that broke. We can't sell them. I don't think we make money even on a $2,000 order. So there's tough decisions to be made when you run a business, and this was one of them. Is like, we have to get rid of certain customers. And, and when I say get rid of them, well, I don't mean, just call them up and say we're not selling to you anymore. There's ways to go about that.
What's been your way?
Well, sometimes you have to raise prices because it's a heavy account to service. And, based on volume or the requirements of the particular customer, look, we have a lot of costs in our business, a lot of overhead. I mean, we've got quality managers, quality directors, the ISO certifications
doesn't support selling a replacement plexiglass window for a residential garage.
So I feel bad about that. But by the same token, we have an obligation to run the business and run it successfully. And I think we've done that, And again, through this acquisition, it's something that you mentioned earlier. Look, when you're in a family business, you got to go out and buy a $500,000 machine. Well, guess what? You're going to mortgage. Bank's going to attach your house, and there's a lot of extra pressures. The cool thing about our organization is that all they want us to do is sell plastics. Why? Because they got something called the service center, and they handle the health benefits, they handle the payroll, they handle the IT, they handle everything. I don't do that anymore.
All you got to worry about is finding and servicing customers.
That's it. And what a great business model that is. It's tremendous. And I'm so happy. I've had one job my entire life, by the way. I don't know how many people have can make that claim. I think I'm going over 40 years now. Of course, when I was a kid, every holiday or summer vacation, I was down at Modern Plastics. So I learned the business from the ground up. But
when did you first? What was your first time you went to the factory to work?
Probably 6 years old. Yeah.
6 years old.
I used to help my grandfather at that age replace the glass window. I love the glass part of the business, by the way.
You did?
I did, more so than the plastic. So I was replacing glass window shields and cutting glass and all that. I loved
As
that
a
part.
kid?
As a kid, I loved it. Yes.
Pre-OSHA.
Yeah, my father's brother, my Uncle Tony, was in the business, and he ran the glass shop, and I worked with him. And there's a lot of good memories with the family business, and there's also a lot of difficult things. I think I've forgotten a lot of stuff in my lifetime, and some of the bad things that happened during a private business, I just kind of block out at this point.
How was your relationship with your grandfather?
My grandfather, I used to call him the devil because when he was at work, he didn't care that I was his grandson. He was brutal, brutal. But step outside of the business, he and I'd get on the golf course. We'd go out to dinner. We'd go for ice cream, whatever. He was a different kind of guy. He really was. And I miss him. I miss him dearly. I love him. And I just wish he could see the business today where we are, because unfortunately he died before a lot of this stuff happened. I think even before we were acquired, actually. So I think he'd be pretty shocked to see where
proud.
we're at today. Oh yeah.
Carried on that legacy, done a lot with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So what are you guys doing to innovate? Something I wanted to bring up was I did a talk for the SMA a while ago, and one of the things I talked about was about sort of recruiting, getting the word out for manufacturing. And I think we talk a lot about it's not the dark, dirty, dingy days of yesteryear. It's the lean, green, and clean manufacturing of the future. And there's really an opportunity for people of this generation and new generations to have a different view of manufacturing.
Right.
When I was sort of coming of age in the 90s, like it wasn't even talked about to go into manufacturing, even engineering. It was all consulting and finance and doctors and lawyers and political science and IT. And so we missed some of that, but I think it's been really coming back. And one of the things I really encouraged people to do was get onto the new modern communication platforms. And I noticed you guys have a TikTok account.
Yeah, we do. Look, I keep saying it, I'm 60 years old, but you will never catch me out of tune with technology or social media or anything else. We hired a digital marketing intern recently, and he's got to keep up with me. That's how it has to go. And he's brilliant, by the way. But in any case, TikTok, 1 billion users. When it first came out, maybe we're going back 2 years. I asked my daughter about it, and
how did it get on your radar?
My daughter.
Okay, you saw her.
I have two daughters, and they both were on TikTok, and so they set up. They came to my office. They set up an account, and then I set up the app, and I started watching it, and I was really kind of dismayed. I mean, it just was a lot of, let's just say, inappropriate things going on there, and I think it was geared more towards, let's say, the younger people, right? And I kept my eye on it, and I'll tell you, I love TikTok. I find it so purposeful and educational for my own being. Health experts and business experts and financial people, and I just love it. And then TikTok figures out, the kind of things that you like, and they bring you more of those videos, right? And the data on who's watching TikTok now.
Yeah.
The largest group is 45 and above. I don't know if you knew
kidding.
that, but it's 45 and above. So 1 billion users, these are all people. These are people that are probably in business. These are people that might be in supply chain positions, that might be buyers, that might be engineers, that guess what? Might be buying plastics, right? So
a lot of people are.
Yeah. So we started, I think we've got about 6 or 7 videos up, modern_plastics on TikTok. They're hilarious. They're just edgy. They're fun. And in the 30 seconds that, we're trying to do these videos, keep them in the 30-second range, we're going to send an educational piece about plastics. And how they're being used and changing lives. But we're doing it in a really fun way. It is edgy. It is fun. It is different. I talked to my parent company about it. They know that I push the edge all the time, especially when it comes to marketing the company. And I think there was a little bit of hesitation, but they're like, all right, Bing, go with it.
Let's see what happens.
We're going to turn a blind eye right now, but go with it. And so that's the thing about my company too, is they give me all the support.
They
in
are
the world.
pretty edgy and funny.
They really.
And I think the other piece is, not everybody be willing to sort of be in and poke fun at themselves a little bit.
Yeah.
But you're in them. I mean, like you're not, it's not like you've just got, I think some people think, oh, we'll just like hire someone whose main qualification is that they're under the age of 25 and like they'll go figure something out. But you've really engaged and allowed yourself to be sort of, poke fun at a little bit sort of in it, but also engaging in it and participating and being part of the messaging and so really embracing it in that way.
Well, I think so. Look, I'm passionate about the business and, I always tell people, I said, I'm not Bing Carbone. I'm really not. Who am I? I'm a piece of every person I've ever met in my life, and I take a little piece of that and I incorporate it into myself. And I've watched a lot of good people over the years. I was friends with Jack Welch. I've been friends with a lot of really important people in life. And I've taken a piece from them. And, the best ones seem to be out there. And you're going to get criticized. You might get attacked. That's part of the game, right? But you got to stay strong, speak your mind, stay the course, and execute. So the best CEOs I see out there are the ones that are out there, that are talking about their businesses, about their companies, and that are mentoring people. We have a very strong internship program and mentoring program at Modern Plastics. And I tell other presidents and CEOs, look, at this stage of the game, it's time to give back. And there's multiple ways to give back other than just writing a check for some organization. And so I spend a lot of time. I think I'm involved in 15 or 16 business advisory councils, board of directors, volunteer committees, and I show up to all the meetings and I contribute. And young people are really important to me. I'm associated with a lot of the local universities in Fairfield County. Southern Connecticut State University, for example. We've hired a number of students that have gone on to be direct employees of our company. And what a great thing you're doing, because you're giving the student something to put on their LinkedIn profile, you're giving them experience, you're giving them mentorship, and then they can figure out, well, do I like this company? And we can figure out, do we like them? And they are a fit. Because our company, I will tell you, you've got to fit into our culture. And I noticed when I came into your business, you've got your core values up, and as we do, we have our core values. And I feel that we can teach anybody plastics, but if they don't get the core values from the get-go, not going to work.
Not going to work.
Not going to work.
Yeah. You're not going to change leopard spots, right?
No. So yes, I am in these videos, and I'm also a very transparent guy. I mean, my cell number is out there. I get calls and text messages all the time from people. If I can tell you one quick story. So in 2020, when the pandemic started, again, I was at one of these forecast meetings. It was in February. And before I left, I had heard about this virus coming around. I think it was in Seattle or California, something like that. But much wasn't going on at that point. So we went to the forecast meeting in February. I love Walt Disney World. It was in Orlando. So spent a couple of days at Disney, no mask, no nothing. But I'll tell you what, by the time I got back, and a week later, you know what happened. All hell broke loose, and the pandemic started. And we did get a call from the CEO at the time, and basically the message was to the regional managers, get the word out to all your managers that we're going to be in for a tough haul here. And you guys need to come up with a contingency plan, and furloughs might be possible, layoffs, et cetera. So we put a plan quickly into place, and I think myself and two other guys were the last people going to be at that company, cutting plastics and shipping or whatever. I mean, it was really a scary time, as you know, and I think sometimes we forget how bad it was. But about a week later, I'm sitting in my office. It was on a Sunday at 2 o'clock, and the regional manager that I worked with in Ohio, we got into a conversation, and we both kind of came up with this idea. We said, we're a plastics distributor. We have plastics. We have access to plastics. We know how to manufacture things. There was obviously a shortage of PPE at the time. So China basically cut everything off. Mm-hmm. And you've got these healthcare workers and these doctors and nurses being basically unprotected. And we said, why don't we go into the plastic face shield business? He thought it was a great idea. He said to me at that time, all right, you start on the marketing. I'll start rounding up the materials because we're going to need like massive amount of material.
Yeah.
So I, at about 2:15, put a post on my personal Facebook site. And all I said was modern plastics is going into the manufacturing of plastic face shields. By 2:30, that thing went, I mean, I've never seen anything like it. It went totally viral. I started getting calls. Of course, I put my cell number out there like an idiot, but whatever, okay.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't expect this, but we started getting so many calls from across North America. And at 3:30 p.m., believe it or not, we got our first order. I think it was about $2 million. Guess from who? The state of Connecticut.
No kidding.
State of Connecticut. And I think we ended up doing maybe $10 or $12 million with the state of Connecticut just on face shields. But the business exploded. We ended up producing, with my parent company, 50 million plastic face shields.
Wow.
Now, just think about this. So somebody places an order for 1 million face shields, okay? A tractor trailer load only holds 70,000 face shields.
Seriously?
I'm serious. You know how many trucks that took to get those products delivered?
The roads in Shelton still haven't forgiven you.
But it was a huge year for us. We sold the face shields all across North America. And I'll tell you what started happening, Ari. So, you know, I hate to use the word pivot, but that's kind of what we did. But our business held up. But we did pivot into this business. We took on new space. We hired, 60 people, 75 people. These were all handmade, by the way. There's no machine that did this.
Yeah.
These are all handmade. So we started in producing these materials, these products, and we started making some money on these things. And look, when you're starting a new business, you have startup costs, we had equipment, people, et cetera. So we started at a certain price level. And then I started to get a really bad feeling internally. It's like, we're taking these orders. It's like 2 million here, 5 million here, and they become all within a day. And I started feeling guilty about it. Like, we've got people dying. And if you remember, I think New York City, there was almost 2,000 people a day dying in bodies, in refrigeration trucks. And here we are, not only not letting people go, but we've hired more people, and the business is exploding. And I felt bad about it, really bad about it. And it wasn't until I started getting calls, and I have saved these messages, and I have saved these voicemails from doctors and nurses and healthcare people and presidents of hospitals. And I still get emotional about it when I think about it, because I've had male doctors leave me voicemails crying on the phone saying, thank you. I've had Senator Blumenthal down and Senator Murphy, and they did some talks to our employees, and it didn't hit me until the doctors and until the senators came in and said, you know what? You guys are saving lives. Do you understand the importance of what you're doing? And that's when it struck me. And from that point on, we actually created an infection control division, and we started selling a whole host of other PPE-type products. And one of the things we did, which was really cool, the mask started, and healthcare workers had to wear the mask all the time. They're getting blisters and blood on their ear. So we came up with a plastic device that went around the back of the head, kept the straps off the ears. My manager at the time called me up and he said, I got another product for you. I was like, oh, okay, what's that? He goes, plastic body bags.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, you know what? I said, I can't do it.
Step too far.
Can't do it. I know they were needed. I couldn't do it.
But that's the great thing about, one of the great things about being in manufacturing, right? Separate from just selling ideas and consulting and whatever, is like you can actually make something, you can see it come to life, and you can see the impact that it makes. So that's really cool. Listen, before we wrap up and go to rapid fire round of questions, you had this picture here. It's been face down the whole time.
Okay.
I'm dying to know what it's all about.
All right.
So if it's not too much of a left turn, what is it?
Okay, so you've probably seen this picture before, maybe?
Is that the James Webb Telescope picture?
This is the James Webb Telescope. Okay, so what you're looking at here is
Yeah, if you're listening and not watching, if you haven't seen it, just take a Google. But the James Webb Telescope is that new telescope that just kind of launched not that long ago, and it's got this deep space image, right? So if I remember correctly, it's like if you hold a grain of rice on the end of your hand and you reach out your arm's length and you hold it up to the night sky, they took a picture of like that amount of night sky,
You
that
are
little
absolutely
bit,
correct
and there's
with
like
that.
thousands of galaxies in that one little spot.
You're absolutely correct. And you mentioned sand. Do you realize there's more galaxies and stars than there are grains of sand here on Earth? So it's incredible. So you're right. This is a grain of sand snapshot. This is the beginning of the creation of the universe. This light took 4.6 million years to travel here at light speed, which is what, 186,000 miles an hour, right? So this telescope is now picking up this photograph here, which is mind-blowing to me, right? So life on Earth, I think actually started around 4.5 billion years ago. And when I say life on Earth, I'm meaning like the building blocks of life. Right, exactly. So what's so cool about this, right? So we talk about plastics. Well, guess what? Some of our plastics are on this telescope.
No kidding.
Absolutely. And for those of you that are a little bit older, that might remember the Skylab space station. Our plastics were up on that. Our plastics were on the Hubble telescope. And guess what? Our plastics are sitting on the moon in the lunar module that they left behind. So, and also used for the spacesuits. So just another example of the incredible usage of plastics. And I said before, just think about the things that our country, our people, our businesses wouldn't be able to do without it. And I won't even get into defense and aerospace. I know Paul Lavoie is overseas now, United Kingdom, and he's doing an air show over there and showcasing the Connecticut products for defense and aerospace.
Listen, man, it's really cool. You're obviously really passionate about it, Bing, and I really appreciate you coming, sort of telling the modern plastic story. It was really awesome. I'm going to move us to rapid fire. We're going to wrap it up. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, my man. Red Sox or Yankees?
Oh, God, Yankees.
Oh, it was going so well, Bing. Did you not see the wall?
I have two original Yankee Stadium chairs in my office, by the way.
All right, there you go. Yeah. iPhone or Android?
iPhone. Come on.
Starbucks or Dunkin'?
Ugh, Dunkin's.
When you travel, or when you take time off, rather, staycation or exotic destination?
Walt Disney World.
Sports car or SUV?
Corvette.
Do you have a favorite business book?
Good to Great.
Good to Great. It's a good one. If you had to do something, could be anything in the whole wide world, but you had to do something other than be president of Modern Plastics, what would you do? I
play bass guitar, and Peter Cetera, the lead singer from Chicago, I'll take his place or I'll take Paul McCartney's place.
Very nice. What's something, Bing, that you learned early in your career, that you think early in your life, that you think's helped propel you to all the success that you've had?
Surround yourself with good people. And that's what I tell a lot of the younger people. I mean, even with their friends. And, I'll be blunt. If you're surrounded by losers, you're probably going to end up that way. Surround yourself with good people. Listen to them. And take a piece of the good from them and put it inside of you and learn.
What's something, Bing, that you learned later in your life or later in your career that if you went back and travel back in time and tell young Bing, and if he'd listened to you, you think it'd make a real positive impact on him?
Yeah. I think every parent might have this, I'll call it a regret maybe. And I do kind of the same thing. I'm a bit of a helicopter parent with my 29 and 27-year-old daughters. And I remember my father doing the kind of same thing with me, is that he tried to save me from everything. And I told him one day, I said, if you keep trying to save me from everything, I'm never going to learn. So when we talk about business, you have to allow people to make mistakes. Now, I'm going to save them from the catastrophic mistake, just like my father, or I'm going to save my daughters from a catastrophic mistake. But you got to let people make mistakes, and you got to let them learn from it, because that's how we learn. And it might cost you some money, it might cost you a customer, but that's the way it goes.
No doubt about it. Bing, I'll tell you what, something you were saying earlier made me think of, if they're not talking about you, you're probably not doing anything.
That's right.
People are definitely talking about you, Bing. So thanks so much for coming on and sharing your views. It was a real pleasure.
It's been my pleasure, too. Thank you, Ari.
Made in America with Ari Santiago is brought to you by CompassMSP.
Thanks for listening and spending some time with me today. My goal is to help build a strong manufacturing community, and it would be impossible to do without all of you.